So it's my distinct pleasure to welcome our keynote speaker for General Assembly today. It's a jungle out there, and competing in today's economic environment requires the ruthlessness and agility of a dedicated commercial mercenary. But before I introduce the speaker, I'd like to ask you a question. When I say the word gorilla, what kind of words or thoughts come to mind? Anybody? I'm sorry? Okay. How about inventive or quick, or maybe even someone who does things like a rebel, something that's out of the ordinary? All of those words would describe this workshop speaker. He is an award-winning speaker, writer. He is the co-author of 5 of the legendary guerrilla marketing books. The Guerrilla series now includes 47 titles translated into more than 60 languages. And together they've sold more than 20 million copies worldwide. Since 1980, he's been traveling around the world, helping people just like you learn how they need to get the edge to win. In today's competitive marketplace, he has spoken in more than 1,000 cities in 42 countries, on every continent on the globe except Antarctica, and I suspect if the Penguins wanted to organize, he'd go down there too. He's definitely quick. His clients include companies like IBM, Microsoft, the Marriott hotel chain, United Airlines. His work has appeared on places like Good Morning America and CNN. He holds the highest level of certification conferred by the professional speaking industry, that of a certified speaking professional. And folks, less than 300 people worldwide have earned that distinction. Today, he's going to share some of his unconventional weapons and tactics to help you make your business more competitive and more profitable. Please help me give a warm welcome to Orville Ray Wilson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The ad in the comic book said, "Win a bicycle." You remember those? I thought it was a sweepstakes. I didn't know any better. I tore out the coupon. I sent it away. I got back this box full of garden seeds. And there were all these instructions. I was supposed to go and sell them door to door to door for 25 cents each, which I thought was a lot because you could buy the same thing at the grocery store for a dime. But I didn't know any better. I dressed up in my best clothes. I did exactly like I said. And they had all these rules. They said, never walk on the grass. Always walk on the sidewalk. Always step back from the door after you ring the doorbell. Always say, "Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am." And I did everything by the book. And I rang every single doorbell in our subdivision. And then I crossed that street that my mother told me not to cross. And I rang every doorbell that I could find over there. And by about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it was obvious I had no future in sales. I hadn't sold a single pack of seeds. And you know how easy it is to get discouraged when you're hungry and you're tired and you're dehydrated. So I was taking a shortcut across this big vacant lot on the way home. And there was this lady out in her backyard. She got the shovel. She's tearing it up, putting in the new garden, right? So I yelled at her. I said, "Hey, lady, you don't need no seed for that garden, do you?" The pitch, of course, is now. Well, she stops her work. She leans on her shovel. She says, "I don't know. What have you got?" So "I got everything. What do you want?" And, of course, her next question was, "How much?" 25 cents? She says, "Why should I pay 25 cents? I could buy it at the grocery store for a dime." That's when I started to cry. Because I'm trying to win a bicycle, that's why. She bought $9 worth. And what I learned from that one transaction was, no, well, if that works for you. No, what I learned was that people who buy seeds, people don't buy seeds, and that's just the way it works. And if you want to win a bicycle selling garden seeds, you can't take time to ring every single doorbell. You've got to think smarter. You've got to do something else. So you go up and down the alley and you look in the backyard where they had last year's garden. Yeah, right. And you knock on the door, and if they don't answer, you go back and knock again because you've only got so many of those opportunities in your neighborhood. And if all else fails, you go back when that blue glow in the window tells you they're watching Bonanza. People will buy anything from you when they want to get back to watching Bonanza, right? And that really, for me, was my first exposure to this whole idea of, I was a guerrilla already, I didn't know it. I graduated that summer to Christmas cards and magazine subscriptions. I sold newspaper subscriptions for a buddy of mine. And that was, for me, the beginning of what has been a lifelong love affair with this whole field of sales and marketing. I was a psych pre-med in college, and when my scholarships ran out, I took a job selling encyclopedias door to door. And I was, as it turns out, I was very good at it. And they made me a trainer and then a field manager and finally a national sales manager. I did that for a few years. And then I went through a period where I realized that sales was a way, kind of a back door into learning about business. And Denise, who is here in the hall somewhere, where are you at, Denise? Denise is my wife, and I call her Denise because that's her name. And anyway, we met kind of during that bookstore to door period, and so she was going to college, and but I realized that instead of going back to school, that I could learn about business through sales. And sold advertising, sold printing, sold computers for a while. My last real job, in 1979, I worked in a retail store that sold big-ticket audio and video equipment before home theater was a word, really. Chrisman Audiovision. Family owns 5 stores. Many of you can relate. And I started in that store on the 16th of the month, and I finished that month in first place for sales for that store. And for the next 22 consecutive months, I equaled or bettered the combined production of the other 4 guys who worked there. Because I knew what it was like to knock on doors on the street. I knew what it was like to farm. I kept records. I called people back. I upsold and cross-sold and resold other, you remember that stereo you bought 2 months ago? We got tape decks coming on sale. But I thought I had died and gone to heaven, spending 60 hours a week in an air-conditioned store listening to music all day. That was a blast. And after 4 or 5 of my colleagues had been promoted and given their own stores, I went to Bill Falkson, the general manager, and I said, what do I have to do? Give me my own store. I'll teach my guys how to sell the way I sell. I'll do as much business out of one store as you do out of the other 4 stores. I dare you. He says, oh, we can't do that. Why not? Well, you're too valuable to us as a trainer. Oh, well, that put a burr in my knickers. So I went downtown. I rented a little walk-up office on the Pearl Street Mall in Boulder, and I had some business cards printed. I went back in on Monday morning, and I suggested to Bill Falkson that if he wanted to continue the relationship, he should hire me as a consultant to train his salespeople. And lucky for me, he saw the wisdom of that arrangement, because we would have starved to death, right, niece? And they became my first client. And that was nearly 30 years ago. And it was the beginning of what has been a global journey in this whole arena. Our topic today is guerrilla retailing. It's the newest of the books in this series. And it really is, it's a jungle out there. Have you noticed it's tough? And it's getting tougher all the time. You follow the news, a lot of economic uncertainty now. The stock market's up 100 points one day, down 100 points the next. I just heard Toyota posted a loss of $4.4 billion. It's the first loss that they've had in their 60 years in business. It's crazy. You are not imagining it. Hallmark just created a new category for condolence cards for those of you who invested in real estate. That's, it's not you. You're not imagining it. Competition becoming more and more ruthless. Have you noticed that maybe on the flight out here that the service on the airlines is not what it used to be? I had a flight in New York for an engagement a few days ago, and they charged me $45 to check my bags. It was $1 for a cup of coffee, $2 for a Coke. And then during the safety briefing, they said something like, in the event of an emergency, an oxygen mask will drop from the compartment above your head, insert a credit card, and oxygen will flow to the mask. Man, it is scary out there. And customers want more and 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 more. This is the new 922 here, right? And they want it delivered when? Yesterday. You're not imagining it, folks. Things are tough, and they're going to get worse before they get better. And if you're not fighting back with everything you've got, you don't stand a chance in this market. So today, we're going to send you home with